I brought up the subject of divorce when Elena was right in the middle of her busiest work season. She was so focused on her computer that she didn't even look up, clearly annoyed by the interruption. She just said, "Make sure you've thought this through. The custody will go to me," as if she was certain I would immediately back down for the sake of our son. I just smiled and placed a bank card on her desk. "Here's the dowry you gave me back then. 28,800. I'll also deposit Leo's future child support to this card. Happy divorce." Elena herself was a divorce lawyer, so it was ironic that she was now getting divorced. When I posted a picture of our divorce certificate on my social media, some of my friends joked about it in the comments. I just laughed and replied, "Too bad a divorce lawyer can't end someone else's marriage." Elena and I had been married for 12 years, and we shared a child, Leo, who was 10. It was surprising that things had come to this. The reason for it all was, unfortunately, also ironic. She had been handling her first love's divorce case, and it had been dragging on for 3 full years without any resolution. Elena seemed to believe the situation was incredibly complicated and delicate, as if her first love was on the edge of a cliff and required her utmost caution. To me, the guy just wasn't willing to let go. He was greedy and wanted more from his abusive marriage, and he loved playing the victim. His online presence kept him in the limelight as a minor celebrity. In those 3 years, he had managed to pick up a bunch of gigs, appearing in magazines, on TV shows, and in countless interviews. I also shared our divorce certificate on a separate account of mine, one with barely 2-digit followers, joking, "See, getting divorced isn't hard. You just have to leave with nothing." That post infuriated his sympathetic fans, who flooded my account with hateful comments. Suddenly, my follower count started shooting up, even if they were all haters. I didn't really care about the comments. In fact, I was curious to see if Elena would choose him over our son, Leo, especially when those online trolls started messing things up for our kid. Elena called me soon after that post. I was expecting her to be angry and demand that I delete it, but she didn't. She just sounded exhausted. "Alex," she said, "you know that I always finish what I start. Since I took Victor's case, I have to see it through to the end." "And then what?" I asked her calmly. She hesitated for a long time, probably finding it difficult to swallow her pride and try to smooth things over with me. Finally, she just spat. "If you're divorcing me because of him, there's no need," as if she was scolding me for being childish. My heart is on the left side of my chest, and I replied, "Elena, honestly, is your commitment because of your professional ethics, or is it just personal?" Without missing a beat, she said, "I'm a lawyer," I scoffed. "Elena, over these last 3 years, you promised Leo 7 different times that you would take him to the park or to a museum, but you always got called away by a single phone call from him. And I had to be the one to cover for you, telling our son that you're a hero who stands up against wrongdoing in marriages, helping many people find new beginnings. Then one time," I continued, "Leo saw you on TV walking out of court with a handsome man, surrounded by reporters. You were right by his side, looking angry yet protective. Do you remember his face? How about how I had to explain that to him later?" The silence on the other end of the line was deafening, but the call was still connected. Maybe the thought of neglecting Leo was finally gnawing at her conscience. I didn't mind rubbing salt in the wound, so I continued. "Elena, have you ever wondered why Leo, who used to be so clingy, suddenly became independent and withdrawn? Why he stopped asking you to join him for things, to teach him, or to sweetly call you mom? Now you two are more like strangers sharing a space, just giving a mere nod during the rare times you see each other." For 3 years, I had put up with Elena's coldness, Leo's emotional struggles, and Victor's deliberate pettiness toward me. I had finally had enough. Closing my eyes, I whispered sarcastically, "You've already become an annoying wife. With custody, don't become a disgusting mother." Elena and I agreed that every Friday night, I would pick Leo up from school, and he would stay with me until after dinner on Saturday. But the very first Saturday after our divorce conflicted with a big red carpet event for a luxury perfume brand overseas. My client, a star who paid me 6 figures, required me to be there, and I only returned on the following Tuesday. When Friday came, I showed up at the school to pick up Leo. Surprisingly, Elena was at the school gate, too. She looked far from her usual polished, professional self. Her hair was messy, and she had tired circles under her eyes. Her neatly pressed suit was now crumpled. The anticipated online backlash I was expecting hadn't really happened. I had no idea if people were just getting tired of Victor's repetitive drama, or if Elena had pulled some strings to make it go away. But there she was, hands in her pockets, looking lazily at me. "Why didn't you go for custody?" I stood there, completely dumbfounded, and then anger flared up. "What do you mean, Elena? Would you really leave Leo for another guy?" That didn't sound like the Elena I had known for over a decade. She was responsible, not the type of person to abandon her kid for a man who wasn't even available. "I don't mean that," Elena frowned. I unclenched my fists. If she had shown even the slightest hint of rejecting Leo, I would have lost my temper. "I was just weighing the options, Elena. Unlike you, I don't act on impulse. Leo will have a better future with you. He's your flesh and blood, something you can't just cut off. No matter how far you're willing to go for some guy, they're still your family," I responded. Elena's family background is very impressive. She comes from a long line of lawyers. Her grandparents were professors. Her dad is a judge. Her mom works in legal affairs. Her aunt, Catherine, is a big shot in the business world. Her sister? She didn't go the legal route. She's in the diplomatic service. And there are a bunch of cousins climbing the ranks in the court system. Elena is no slouch herself. She earned her PhD and joined the top law firm in the capital. In just 10 years, she became the head honcho, racking up connections with some seriously powerful players. Her career is booming, and her family background is impressive. As a top makeup artist, I'm doing well and making good money. But compared to her family's pedigree, my parents are just high school teachers. There's no contest. Take Leo's school, for example. He's at the best private school in P-City. The tuition is $300,000 a year. I could easily afford it now, but getting him admitted was the tough part. These schools have strict admission standards that reflect in every single aspect. I'd never even considered that schools would interview the parents until Leo applied to this kind of private school. Climbing the social ladder is hard. Elena paused, her clear eyes clouding over, maybe surprised at how practical my reasons were. I gave her a sarcastic smile. "I've told you over and over again to stay away from Victor, and we just end up fighting. Do you think I'm stuck because of our kid and don't have to worry about the house falling apart, so you can give all your time and energy to another guy? That's a pretty low thought." She frowned, too well-mannered to stoop to using crude words. "Do you have to talk like that?" "What else?" I shot back, raising an eyebrow. "Should I wish you and your first love happiness together?" Her energy seemed to drain away. Her posture slackened, and exhaustion spread across her face. "We don't have to do this," she said. "I've arranged for another lawyer to take on Victor's case. The handover should be done in the next few days." I looked at her without any emotion. If she had acted like this the very first time I brought up Victor, I would have been thrilled. If she'd done this before we got divorced, even without Joy, I would have reconsidered the divorce for Leo's sake. But sadly, we're already divorced. I'm not impulsive. Once I decide on something, it's been well thought out. Even if there's a cliff ahead, I won't turn back. Divorced? And now you're doing this. Elena, you're even lower than I thought, I said. I didn't think it would come to this. Even if Elena is hung up on Victor, she still has the Greys backing her. Her sister is in the public spotlight, and while Elena doesn't care how others see her, she wouldn't let herself become a stain on her sister's record. I always believed her relationship with Victor was purely professional. That's why I turned a blind eye to Elena's actions for so long. But Victor should never have come near Leo, and Elena shouldn't have repeatedly put Leo second for this man. I learned what happened afterward. Last month, when Elena had agreed to take Leo hiking, halfway through the trip, she got a call from Victor and had to haul Leo over in a rush. Victor's assistant took advantage of Elena's distraction, pinched Leo's cheek, and said that Victor was going to be his new dad. When Leo got the courage to bring it up with Elena, she thought I was using our son to force her to cut ties with Victor. Elena and I fought about it. It wasn't until Leo tearfully explained everything that Elena finally felt remorse, but she didn't apologize. She just left for 2 days before coming back with an expensive watch for me and a pile of toys for Leo, expressing her apologies sincerely. I thought it was laughable. That's when I knew I wanted to be rid of her. She disgusted me, but her family connections are good for Leo. I had to keep him here, and I couldn't let Victor bully Leo in the future. So I aimed to destroy Victor's reputation, cutting off the problem at the source. I paid to boost the story on social media. When things reached a boiling point, I expected all of Victor's trashy deeds to come out, and he'd be labeled a homewrecker. But it didn't blow up as I expected. Elena doesn't have clout in the entertainment industry, and Victor's little operations didn't concern me. I tried to figure out who was helping Victor, and then I realized it might be Elena's aunt, Catherine, a ruthless businesswoman I really admired. When Elena first introduced me to her family, no one supported us except this aunt, who stood by us against all objections. When I asked her why she backed me, she lit a slim cigarette, smoke curling around her, and said, "The Greys need a business person." Elena's aunt, no matter how close, is just that. An aunt. Spouses share success and failure. At that time, I thought to myself, don't mess with her. I wasn't into business because my college startup had flopped, and I feared my temper would make negotiations explosive. But I do well with funds and stocks, enough to sneak into the expert circle. I kept that under wraps, even from my parents. Elena's aunt quit smoking after a lung surgery a few years ago. Now she plays with prayer beads whenever the craving hits. Time hasn't marked her much. Maybe money smooths out the years. She looks like she's barely 40. "It wasn't me," she said. "I don't meddle in couples' emotional issues." "Aren't you afraid I could ruin Victor? And what if I also tarnish your dear niece's reputation?" I never mince words. She looked up at me, her eyes shifting from the calculating look of a former business person to a warm appreciation and care for a younger person. "It's unlikely," she said. "Elena isn't the type to have an affair. Even if things got really messy, the worst she'd get is being called a bad girl. For the Greys, it'd just be a bit humiliating. You know, when a family is strong enough, there's bound to be some friction. So what if people talk behind our backs? They still have to kiss up when they see us." "Alex," she continued, "I've seen potential in you to aid the Greys, and you've proven to be quite capable. As for Elena, as long as you don't go overboard, the Greys won't care much about what you do." She spoke with the confidence of someone who knew they held all the cards. I tried to see if she was lying, but I couldn't, so I had to leave. I then reached out to my good friend Mark, who was in Paris, to see if he was responsible for suppressing some of the trending gossip. He denied it, but he gave me a clue. Isabella. Memories came rushing back like waves. I first met Isabella at the start of my second semester of sophomore year. After my startup failed, I was focused on earning credits to improve my academic record. I had gotten into P-City from a small town, experiencing both its grandness and its indulgence, seeing people excelling all around me, and some being born into privilege. In a city full of opportunities, my high school scores didn't mean much. I wanted to stay in P-City, but I knew that just studying hard and getting a decent job after graduation wouldn't be enough. I aimed for more. I wanted to plant roots here for generations. So, for a few extra points from attending lectures, I arrived early at a hall to grab a seat for a talk, possibly by some bigwig in an industry. Even being 40 minutes early, the seats were almost full. I snuck into an edge seat and opened my notebook, which was filled with stock market analysis I was learning to invest in. Isabella sat next to me, dressed very low-key with sunglasses and a wide-brimmed hat. Under the dim lights, I couldn't see her eyes clearly. The speaker was passionate, but I was focused, scribbling in my notebook. Suddenly, Isabella leaned towards me, her voice low but amused. "A business school student at an archaeology lecture?" I looked up and noticed her covered appearance, then quickly returned to my notes. "Math, just earning credits." She seemed slightly interested, her hands folded on her lap. "Math major? Thesis topic?" Impatiently, I replied, "Second year, just exploring." After the lecture, she handed me a card. It read in gold letters, Isabella. I searched online later, but not much came up, so I tossed the card. Our second encounter was near finals, when a biofield professor made headlines with a Nature publication, prompting a week of lectures. Students from all over P-City flocked to attend. I got my seat early. Isabella, again dressed unassumingly, walked towards me. "No more stock market for you?" This time, she only wore a wide-brimmed hat. Her face was strikingly bold, yet not soft, with lively eyes that always hinted at warmth. People carry an aura, and even with average looks, some exude attractiveness through their grace and refinement. Isabella's aura, a mix of nonchalance and confidence that comes from wealth, made me think she was a rich family's daughter. I decided to engage with Isabella more. Though that card was long gone, I asked for her contact with a flimsy excuse. "You know stocks? Let's chat sometime." By this time, small wins in the stock market had given me a nouveau riche vibe. I approached her, hoping she'd add to my P-City connections. Whether she found me interesting or attractive, networking was my goal. If not her, there'd be others. It was all part of climbing the social ladder. Yet that thinking didn't last long. As finals wrapped up, my roommates left for home, leaving just me and a business school heir holed up. This heir, despite being roomed with us math geeks, didn't mind. He was carefree, went to classes, partied, and rarely stayed over. Recently, he had been homebound. I thought it was for exams. But no, he was avoiding the family business, planning to break into the entertainment world. The days I spent with Isabella were enlightening. She wasn't just another wealthy girl indulging in luxury. She was immensely skilled. Her advice doubled my stock gains. I wanted more from her, but that required giving back. So I'd dress sharp for our dates. Yet she never chose fancy restaurants or luxurious spots. Instead, she introduced me to billiards, archery, skiing, horseback riding, and golf, activities I rarely encountered. It wasn't bad, learning these rich people's hobbies. Still, my aim wasn't just leisure. I wanted knowledge. She taught me once and left me itching for more. I asked her plainly for more lessons. She didn't answer directly, but took me to a jewelry auction. The starting bids were 7 figures on the cheapest pieces. Several items sold, but Isabella showed no intent to bid. She seemed to enjoy it like a play, content just to be an audience member. I wanted to test her, to see just what kind of skills she really had. So I asked, "Is there no jewelry here you like?" She looked up at me, and for once I saw a fierceness in her eyes. "If you like something, just bid on it," she said casually. I held my ground, and when the main jewelry piece came up with an 8-figure starting price, I turned around, looking at her with doubt. Isabella leaned back lazily in her chair, her cryptic eyes seeming to encourage me. At nearly 3 times the price, I secured the piece. When it was over, I was trembling all over. That's when I realized Isabella was beyond my reach, more than I ever imagined. Millions to her were like flicking ash, with nicotine making her feel it was worth spending. She didn't even glance at the jewelry again, just told someone next to her to send it as a birthday gift to Mark's sister. Just like that, with no hesitation or regret, she gave it away. People like me? I had never dreamed of what life with millions would be like. Isabella wasn't here to broaden my horizons. It was a warning. I clung to her without ever offering myself entirely. She saw right through my little schemes. She didn't push me to be with her. She knew I had ambition, so she used this allure to make me approach her willingly. Mark picked me as his makeup artist because he noticed how flawless my own makeup was. How could it not be? My parents weren't stuck in the past. They didn't insist a teenager should be only focused on school. They cared more about my appearance and personality. When I started high school, my dad hired a professional stylist to teach me grooming every Sunday. He always said a handsome young man would get preferential treatment everywhere. If I had a skill, I'd be set for life. So they let me learn Latin dance, which kept me from putting on too much weight during puberty. Out of countless hobby classes, they picked calligraphy for me because they wanted me to have an edge. As for studying, it was great if I could do well, but if not, it didn't matter. With them both being high school teachers, one in Chinese and the other in physics, they could ensure I'd at least get into college. After that, they planned to send me abroad for a degree. By then, my life story would surpass 90% of my peers. And surprisingly, I was always a top student, which was an unexpected joy for them. When I got into a university in Peace City, they trusted me to make my own decisions about my future. Trying to win Isabella over, Mark realized I was great at makeup, using my skills to create natural looks for his auditions. Joining small web shows, he often had me tag along. After that jewelry auction, I figured Mark, a rich kid himself, might know Isabella. So I asked. It was rare to see him put his phone down as he seriously said, "The girl you're seeing, her name's Isabella?" I nodded. He gave me a weird look and said in a vague tone, "Don't get too attached." I could sense that Mark was a bit scared of Isabella. This guy, who usually feared nothing, had found someone he didn't dare mess with. Perhaps because of the connection with Isabella, he helped me open my studio and pushed my makeup skills in the industry. By the time I graduated, I was a bit known in the entertainment world. That same year, I chose to break up with Isabella. Not for any other reason. I'd learned plenty from her. I couldn't stay by her side forever. She was bound to marry someday. Whoever gets to be Isabella's husband, I wouldn't dare mess with him. So I was the one who initiated the breakup at our regular pool club. Isabella loved pool. Most of the times we met up was there. After I said we should break up, Isabella showed no emotion, her distinct hands wiping chalk on her favorite cue. "Why?" she asked. I asked, "Can you marry me?" She returned, Don't say things with no ambition. It was aimless. It was hopeless. To Isabella, I was a lover, a pupil, but never her husband. Being well-matched and well-paired, as the old saying goes, always has its wisdom. It was a Friday, dining out with Leo, when we passed by that pool club, and I stopped. Leo noticed and asked, "Dad, do you want to go inside?" Should I go in? After Isabella and I parted ways, I cut off all contact. But she was always there, every Friday, playing pool. Who knows if she's still keeping that up? I thought I'd take a chance. What's the big deal, anyway? Once inside, the front desk was no longer the charming guy from back then, but someone alluring in a different way. Just like life, nothing stays the same. I reflected on this as I spotted Isabella. Thoughts from earlier proved wrong. Isabella hadn't changed much. I calculated maybe 4 or 5 years older than me, now in her early 40s. Still with her wavy hair and those slight wrinkles at her eyes, she didn't look much older than her late 20s. The only change was her outfit. She swapped casual wear for a suit, her tie perfectly aligned, and a mala bracelet on her right wrist. I knew that bracelet well because I once had one too. On the night we split on good terms, I remember not being able to see through the bright lights. The string of mala beads broke from her touch, scattering them all over the place, in bed, across the floor. When I left the next day, I glanced at my empty wrist and felt a bit wistful. After all, I had spent $188 on that luck-bringing Bodhi bracelet. The fortune teller said my favorable element is wood, and wearing something wooden could bring me wealth. Isabella once asked me why I wore such cheap stuff. I explained that I got that fortune from a fortune teller for $299. She chuckled and said, "You believe in that stuff?" She seemed to not take fortune-telling seriously. How can I not believe it? Especially in middle age, I've realized that what I have now wasn't just earned through hard work. There are many people more hard-working than me. Blaming it on good luck allows me to enjoy everything without a care. I wasn't sure if the string of beads on her wrist once belonged to me. The shine on those little prayer beads suggested they were old. When she saw me, she put down her cue stick and lit a cigarette. "Long time no see," she said. I held Leo close and replied with a smile, "Long time no see." Then I gently patted Leo on the shoulder and whispered, "Leo, say hi to Auntie." Leo obediently called her Auntie. Isabella looked at Leo, smoke swirling around her eyes. I couldn't sense any joy from our reunion or any lingering feelings for me in her tone. "Leo? What's his full name?" she asked. "Leo," I answered. "That's a good name," she said. She waved toward the corner, and I noticed a little boy in a white shirt, around 7 or 8, with his head down. "Daniel, come over and say hello to Leo." That night, Leo and Daniel spent time drawing with watercolor pens. I watched Isabella sink ball after ball, still not asking about the beads. It doesn't really matter to me whether Isabella was deeply attached. She wouldn't marry me, and I couldn't marry her. Some things are best left unspoken. When the last ball went in, she said, "You were with me for 2 years, and you did it the hard way, the worst way." The answer was clear. The one who got my name off the trending searches was Isabella. "When did you get married?" I asked her. That boy, Daniel, called her Mom. I told her, "I know you don't lack anything, but I should at least send a gift." She looked at me, then called Daniel over and hugged him. "He's a relative's kid. His parents died. It's sad." I went silent. As we parted, she added, "I do have children. Twins, just a month old." I thought to myself, of course. Families like theirs always continue their lineage. Isabella's sudden help was probably her way of closing whatever feelings lingered. During our 2 years together, I had asked her why she chose me. From the first time she handed me her card and I didn't reach out, she knew I was just an ordinary guy. In P-City, any young man with a decent background would have done something with her card. But I, thinking a name that couldn't be Googled meant nothing, missed the chance. She said I was pretty. I jokingly asked, "Is being pretty enough?" At the time, she was holding a deck of cards across from an older woman whose lips trembled as she flipped her cards. Rich people can be quite the gamblers. Her fate was in her cards. There's a type of person whose strength is untouchable, no matter how lucky you are, unless they decide to let you win. When the woman gave up in defeat, Isabella took me in her arms. Her gaze was on the older woman, cold, as if she was looking at a ghost. "Isn't being pretty enough?" she whispered, tapping her fingers on the table, making her point clear. Losing myself to her was my madness. I kept telling myself that for Isabella, love meant little. For me, the right person stands by you in battle. Victor's latest lawsuit has been trending on Twitter again. It's the same old story. A bunch of bystanders are getting tired of it, venting a bit, only to be quickly shut down by Victor's fans. In the past, whenever Victor made headlines, people who knew my wife was his lawyer would casually mention it to me. I'd just smile and say I wasn't interested. But this time, I decided to dig into it myself. When I found out that Victor's lawyer was Chloe, I couldn't help but smile in a way I couldn't quite explain. I had no idea why I was smiling. Chloe. I glanced over at my father, who was playing chess against himself. He had this intense focus, and his refined features reminded me that my mom had great taste back in the day. "Hey, Dad, retirement getting boring? Want to start a company for fun?" I asked, a hint of amusement in my voice. My dad looked up, raised an eyebrow, and in his calm, teacher-like tone that he'd developed over decades, said, "You've always been the one with plans. No need to ask me about everything." I turned my attention back to Twitter's trending list. Isabella was right. Getting involved like this was foolish. I called Elena. It had been a month since our divorce. She seemed to regret it. Using our son as a bit of an excuse, she would admit her faults honestly, not asking for me to come back, just hoping I'd forgive her. She had turned down many cases at her firm to focus on spending time with our son. She'd take Leo to and from school, sometimes cook meals for him, and on holidays she'd take him on trips. This meant I had to tag along because Leo wanted me there. She's been slowly testing my limits, seeing what it would take for me to come back. She paced herself, leaving room for both of us, and working to create opportunities. It was like she was carefully weaving a web. She knew Leo was the connection between us. Even if it was a sticky situation, I couldn't let go of it. 3 months, I laid it out straight. You start something, you see it through. So I'll give you another chance. In 3 months, help Victor get divorced. Then cut ties with him completely and we'll remarry. Elena, this is your only shot. After hanging up the phone, I got busy setting up my company. I asked Mark to find a few attractive young actors, although they weren't well known, to give my media company some presence. Then I recruited a talent manager who was facing some pushback in the industry to help charm the people. Once everything was settled, I quietly waited for Elena's outcome. With less than a week left to the March deadline, Victor won his lawsuit. He didn't get much out of it, but he was still happy to get divorced. Elena might think she was to thank for this, but she wasn't. When the news broke, I stretched lazily and called Mark. "BW did me a favor. How about making an appearance when you have time, Mark?" BW, short for Beautiful Women, is a magazine that's globally aimed at women, though they occasionally publish a men's special edition. Domestically, those who've been featured in BW include world champions, movie stars, Forbes tycoons, and scientist entrepreneurs, each of them well-known figures. Nowadays, Mark is internationally renowned as Asia's ambassador. BW once wanted to interview him, but he turned them down. The reason was pretty cliché: a short-lived marriage between the current BW art director and Mark's brother, which ended badly. Being the closest to the grapevine, I knew all about it. Mark's brother was deeply immersed in the family business and thought women should just focus on looking pretty at home, while his wife wanted to prove she could make her own impact. Quite the drama. He seemed to be enjoying a massage, sounding gleeful. "All right," I chuckled. "You're not even hesitating? They threw a big party asking you before, and you declined without a second thought." Not wanting to trick him when he wasn't fully alert, I added, "Your ex-sister-in-law is still there, you know. Doing a BW interview means you'll have to interact with her." There was a thud on his end, like something fell off the bed. Mark's voice returned to its usual laid-back tone. "And if I don't agree, how do you repay your favor to BW?" I had already figured it out. Even though I might not make it to BW's main feature, I could still play big on the supplementary issues. Since BW knows about my connection with Mark, I just bragged about connecting them. I didn't reply, and then he said, "You're like my little brother, just helping you with something trivial, really no big deal." Sounding tired, he let out a big yawn and hung up. I'm Mark's sworn brother. We became like family when I accepted his parents as my godparents at 25. At the time, I was interested in Elena, and she was open to being with me. But her family, besides Aunt Catherine, didn't see me as a worthwhile match. That's when Mark intervened, asking his parents to accept me. They had no objections. It's remarkable how sharp, successful people can see things. Mark mixes in the entertainment industry, and there's no shaking off the unseemly encounters. His parents, protective of their son, wanted to keep his hands clean, so they needed a proxy blade. They elevated me, turning me into that blade to safeguard their son. If anything ever happened, pushing me aside wouldn't affect them much. Even seeing through Mark's parents' motives, I held no grudge. At least I'm a blade that cuts and sees the world, rather than rusting away in a sheath. Besides, they're willing to provide the sharpening stone. After Victor's divorce was finalized, Elena couldn't wait to reach out, wanting to remarry. It's exhausting. I've been stalling for about half a month, since Victor's popularity has soared, drawing in more opportunities. He's now living it up. I picked a clear day to meet Elena at the civil registry. It was a short 500-meter walk from the parking lot. I deliberately lingered behind, watching her slow down to let me catch up, tension gradually stiffening her shoulders. "Did you check trending topics today?" I asked, staring at the back of her head. Without turning, Elena said, "I don't like looking at Twitter." I continued, "You should. Something might interest you." Finally turning, her eyebrows knitted, sorrow glinting in her eyes. With a near beseeching tone, she replied, "I'll check after we finish up." I pulled my hands out of my pocket, showing they were empty. "I didn't even bring my ID," I said. "We can't remarry." "I tricked you." By now, Victor was likely facing online backlash. Back in college, he manipulated the department head to gain fame, only to turn on him and claim he was coerced once he befriended a star's offspring. This led to a messy lawsuit and a public embarrassment for Victor when the star's child got involved in a brawl. More dirt surfaced, like forcing his ex-wife to a harsh divorce settlement for their own union. Digging up this stuff wasn't hard for me. I planned to expose these, Pieces all along, enough to have netizens tearing him apart countless times. I'm sure Victor is now hearing about BW terminating his contract and will have to pay a hefty penalty. Why? Elena's lips quivered. Even if I didn't help him with the divorce, you could have handled him, right? Why was my part necessary? I guess she saw the trending topics. A few months ago, when she mentioned passing Victor's case to another lawyer, I had considered that for Leo, reconciling with Elena might not be a bad idea. We had a comfortable decade together. Moving past Victor, she's consistently added emotional value and made a good wife. But not when she handed Victor's case to Chloe. Chloe, her apprentice, had barely been with the firm a year. Relying on her was pointless. Ultimately, Victor's case was bound to land back in Elena's hands. Repulsive. Truly repulsive. I shrugged at Elena, smiling broadly. You see, you finish your commitments. I'm just helping you out. Whether Elena took on Victor's divorce didn't really matter to my plans. As soon as BW throws out the idea to Victor about doing a piece on the journey of unhappy married men finding independence, Victor is sure to catch it. First, BW is international, which might boost his fame. Plus, being invited by such a positive magazine could help regain some of his lost reputation. The condition is, Victor has to divorce so he can establish a new image. Fame and reputation are the foundation for any star, and with these two, building a great career is just a matter of time. It's a better deal than the money he couldn't scrape together from the domestic violence scandal. So he's definitely going to get that divorce. If Elena doesn't help him, he'll find someone else. But me, I always pay back my grudges. If Elena disgusts me, I'll do the same to her. I met Elena when I was 25. At that time, Mark, already a rising star, was a supporting guest on a workplace reality show called Offer Letter. I was his go-to makeup artist. The interns for the first season were law students, and Elena was among them. After the first episode wrapped up, the team arranged a meeting with the supporting guests and interns. In the middle of shooting some behind-the-scenes footage, Elena's aunt, Catherine, rushed over. Without caring about embarrassing a young girl in public, she slapped her. Then she smoothed it over by throwing around some cash. At that time, another supporting guest, Victor, canceled his participation in all the following episodes. No one knew why, and this mystery left a bad taste in my mouth. I was too naive back then to think a celebrity could get involved with an ordinary person. Elena's swollen face affected the rest of the shoot. When Mark heard me complimenting Elena's looks, he pushed me to be her makeup artist, using my magical skills to present the audience with an unblemished beauty. It was impossible to cover it completely. I did my best to make the left side of her face look less swollen, hiding those 5-finger marks. The crew eventually used a wisdom tooth infection excuse for the audience. As Elena and I got closer, I felt her good upbringing, her affluent background, and her strong abilities. We could talk non-stop, even though I was a math major, and she was into law. Slowly, feelings crept in. Elena was the first to confess her feelings to me. After meeting her parents, I clearly felt they weren't too keen on me, but Elena's determination was touching. Mark always said Elena was my second choice. But that's not true. I admired her determination, her decisiveness, her attention to detail in our relationship, and the emotional value she brought me. When I came clean about a past close relationship, she said, "It's normal. We're adults. I had one too." Emotionally, we were equals, and materially, I could match her. I believed I could bridge the gap in family background through my abilities. With Isabella, I was always unequal, in feelings or material things. Elena and I never asked about each other's exes. First love is fair. You have one? I have one. Anything more is impolite. 3 years ago, Elena took Victor's divorce case. Maybe because she felt that what she couldn't fight back against back then, she now had the power to control. Elena has a rebellious streak. For instance, her family pushed her to study finance in college, which she disliked, leading to many arguments before settling for her second least favorite: law. Later, her family advised her to be a lawyer in securities and cross-border investment, but she chose to become a divorce lawyer. She might have been drawn to Victor because of something she longed for: freedom, pursuing what you want by any means necessary. All right, that's enough, Elena. I stopped short, about 100 meters from the Civil Affairs Bureau. Just like back in the day with Isabella, we parted ways nicely, without looking back, without holding on. I once had my fortune told. They said I lacked a wife star. For men, it means a wife. Everyone likes to hear what they want to. The fortune teller said I'd get rich, and I believed him. The same fortune teller said I'd struggle to find love, which I ignored. How could an outstanding person like me not find a wife? Looking back now, it seems the fortune teller wasn't wrong. Elena seemed unwilling to give up. I saw the confusion and sadness in her eyes, feeling nothing. She wanted to remarry, not out of much love, but because after a long time, she realized I was suitable as a husband, and her son needed a father. Don't put on such a pitiful face, Elena. You know I never look back. You won't be an exception. I spoke coldly. You should be grateful we have a child. I've made more money in this lifetime than Leo could ever spend, but now I can only earn. If Leo needs a path that requires you to pave the way, maybe you should think about how to connect all the roads in this city. So no matter which path Leo takes, it leads to success. Her eyelids twitched as I watched the hope in her eyes fade away. So, you won't take revenge on me because I'm useful for Leo. I raised my eyes, looking at her with indifferent coldness. What else? Anyone who makes me unhappy is unforgivable to me. When Mark learned about the existence of a Bodhi bracelet, he commented, "Isabella's pretty devoted." There's no devotion. It's my capability. There are plenty of handsome guys out there. Why does she only remember me? Because I'm smart, eager to learn, and understanding. I was always scheming, clearly aware as I fell in. Then I gracefully withdrew when she was most infatuated. I gave her the pleasure of romance and the pride of a mentor-student relationship. It almost seemed like she was chiding me for being immature. I would be the one she'd never forget. My dad's company is in the best part of P City. From the chairman's office on the 19th floor, the cars on the street below look tiny, like ants. I took the contract for Victor from my agent, Max, who I went out of my way to recruit. Just like you said, Max told me. It's a 10-year contract with clauses he mentioned. Why I chose Max? Maybe it's because I met him once by chance, and he reminded me of my younger self. Ambitious and determined to stay in the glitzy P City, even if it meant becoming shrewd and ruthless. But unlike me, he wasn't as lucky. After a few years of struggles at work, he kept hitting dead ends. Now I've become like Isabella, enjoying the experience of mentoring someone. He's smart. I just need to hint at something, and he immediately gets what I want to do. Victor's little shop can't afford BW's breach of contract fees, so he needs someone to back him up, but with his bad reputation, who would dare to associate with him? That's when I got him to sign with my budding company. Even negative publicity is still publicity. As long as there's buzz, making money isn't an issue. He couldn't believe his luck could be that bleak and ended up trapped in my snare, dreaming of a future comeback. Isabella taught me that if you want to really ruin someone, make sure they have no escape. By signing Victor, I don't give him opportunities or promote him. The debt he owes me will keep growing. 10 years from now, he'll be old, out of charm, unable to pay me back, and become a complete deadbeat. His last days will be in poverty, without dignity. Should we go see him? Let him know you're the chairman's son, Max asked. He sure knows how to twist the knife, which is why I picked him. I looked out the window again. It was a clear, cloudless day. At 37, after 19 years in P-City, I had reached heights I never dreamed of. It's enough. Some fates are just meant to be accepted. Let's wait, I heard myself say. Wait until next year when I officially become the executive director and give him a surprise.